Hello everyone, my name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute. Welcome to Preston's Ponderings. Well, it's been a little bit since I've produced a video here, and that's because the electricity and the air conditioning in my office went out, and they didn't seem to get in any kind of a hurry to fix it. As a matter of fact, it's been well over a week and it's still not fixed, so I'm doing this early of a morning while it's still kind of cool in my office, and then I'll get out of here before it gets extremely hot. Nonetheless, we're involved in a study of the Millennium. The question is, what is the Millennium? When did or when will it begin? When did it end, or when will it end? What we're doing is examining the constituent elements listed by John in Revelation chapter 20. By looking at the constituent elements that John listed as present in the millennium and comparing those elements with the ministry of Jesus, the first century generation, we can determine, believe it or not, that the millennium was in fact in process and present in the first century. Now, you know, this would almost seem to be prima facie demonstrated, and yet it's one of the most overlooked elements when we come to the doctrine of the millennium itself. Now, need to make this observation. Both the amillennial and the postmillennial world do acknowledge these things. They believe that the millennium began in the ministry of Jesus, but they believe that it will extend until the so-called end of the Christian age. Well, here's a problem with that. The Christian age has no end. We have already demonstrated that in other videos, so go back and take a look at those, but we'll have more to say about it in our study of the millennium here. For the moment, we want to examine another one of the very key constituent elements of the millennium as described by John in Revelation chapter 20. We have already noted that John said that the martyrs there that he lists, those who would live and reign with Christ for 1,000 years, i.e. the millennium, John says they were seated on thrones. Well, we've already demonstrated the parallel with Revelation chapter 6. The martyrs there, they were given robes of royalty. There's a direct parallel between Revelation chapter 6 and Revelation chapter 20. Go back and look at that video. Not only were they made kings, given thrones, and given royal robes, but they served as priests unto the Lord during that millennial period. This is absolutely critical. Why is that? It is critical because there's no question whatsoever that the early church, the first century church, was viewed as and called a kingdom of priests. Revelation chapter 1, verse 5, John said, Christ has made us to be, the King James says, kings and priests. Well, there's not a huge problem with that, but it can better be translated a kingdom of priests. Wow. So John, writing in the first century, referred to the body of Christ, the members of the body of Christ, as priests. Now look, John said he's made us to be a kingdom. That means sovereignty, rule, kingdom of priests. Revelation chapter 20, in the millennium, they would be priests, reigning, i.e. kingdom, sovereignty, rule, with Christ as priest. Now watch this. In 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 5, Peter says this, You therefore as living stones are being built up a spiritual house, a spiritual priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices unto God, which are acceptable through Jesus Christ. What did he say? You are living stones. You're building up a spiritual house. That's a temple. That's the temple foretold in the Old Testament. It's the Messianic temple. But most of all, he said, you are a priesthood, a spiritual priesthood, offering up spiritual sacrifices unto God. Okay. They were also, by the way, suffering for the cause of Christ. They're martyrs. You know, we have the mistaken concept sometimes that you're not a martyr unless you die. No, that's not correct at all. You can be a martyr suffering for the cause of Christ and be alive, but you're still a martyr in God's eyes. The point being, Revelation chapter 20, in the millennium, they would be priests sitting on thrones, ruling and reigning. Peter said, you are a priesthood, you are offering up sacrifices which are acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 15, by him, that is through Christ, let us offer the sacrifice of praise unto God, that is the fruit of our lips. Now you see, he's using liturgical priestly language here. He is saying to the members of the body of Christ, they were priests offering up sacrifice to God. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that as Revelation chapter 20 depicts during the millennium, the martyrs, those suffering for the cause of Christ, would be kings and priests ruling with Christ. Peter and the rest of the New Testament apostles said the members of the body of Christ were seated on thrones, they were ruling with Christ, they were members of the kingdom of Christ, and they were priests offering up acceptable sacrifices. Very clearly, the millennium in which those suffering for the cause of Christ would be kings and priests with Christ, that situation already existed in the first century. The millennium had already begun. Hey, we got more. Thanks for joining me for Preston's Ponderings. We'll see you on the flip side.